Good evening to my audience and friends. Welcome to my channel. It's been my pleasure to have all of you here. My story for this evening is the air accident of China Airline Flight 140 that happened in the year of 1994. Alright, before we start, let's have a relaxed session with a simple riddle here. Have a guess what would happen if a cat flew the first airplane, and feel free to have your answer in the comment section below. Next, we'll enter the summary of the accident. So, on April 26, 1994, a China Airline aircraft that exploded in the fire at Nagoya Airport of Japan shocked the world and swiftly catch the world attention. The aircraft is an Airbus A300 B4-622R that operated by China Airlines that based in Taoyuan of Taiwan. The flight is scheduled to depart from Taipei International Airport at 8:53 UTC time. The aircraft is estimated to reach Nagoya Airport after a 2 hour and 20 minutes of flight, and the aircraft is registered as B-1816 and carry a total of 271 people on board. The flight is captained by Wang Leqi and the co-pilot is called Zhuang Mengrong. So according to the flight data recorder, the flight climbed to a flight level of 330 around 9:34 after departure, and the flight is controlled by the first officer. At 10:47, the flight is cleared by the Tokyo Area Control Center and start to descend to level 210. The captain now is briefing the co-pilot about the landing, and the flight is now preparing to perform its initial approach. The aircraft starts to decreasing its speed and altitude gradually. At 11:07, the aircraft is cleared by the Nagoya Tower to perform its ILS approach on runway 34. The first officer starts to disengage the auxiliary power number 1 and 2. And the aircraft now is in manual control mode. Just approximately around 1,000 feet above the ground level, the first officer inadvertently triggered the go level button. Thus, the aircraft now entered go around mode and the thrust had increased drastically by the autopilot computer. The aircraft starts to raise its nose and the landing is abort. However, at this time, the captain reminds that the go around mode is actually triggered and instruct the first officer to disengage it. The aircrew start to push the control column to decrease the power of the throttle. The aircraft level off for around 15 seconds and the captain once again instruct the first officer to push forward the control column, as the captain thinks this can disengage the go around mode automatically. This is because Airbus has released an update that will automatically cancel the go around mode when the aircrew push the control column forward with a force that exceeds 33 pounds. However, this is where the condition that does not go as expectedly by the captain, because China Airlines did not carry out this update, as this update is not mandatory. Since the go around mode is still in engaging mode, the computer starts to lift the aircraft by the elevator for a go around. On the other way, the first officer is actually resisting this operation by pushing forward the control column, as he thinks this can cancel the go around mode and for landing. The first officer for sure cannot resist the computer in this operation, and the captain once again reminds that the aircraft is still in the go around mode. The aircrew only realize that the landing must be abort, and they proceed to a manual go around. The captain on the auxiliary power again, and this result in the horizontal stabilizer to reach an at normal negative 12.3 degree. So at 11:15, the first officer stated that the horizontal stabilizer is latched and the captain finally take over the control of the aircraft. So the aircrew performed a manual go around, and this actually worsened the situation as the autopilot had already left the nose of the aircraft due to the go around mode. This caused the aircraft to lift up more. During this period, the horizontal stabilizer actually decreased from negative 12.3 degree to a negative 7.4 degree. This configuration of aircraft is actually out of the operation limit, and thus the GPWS Mode 5 warning has been heard once at 11:15. The aircraft is almost stalled, and stall warning siren also been heard in the cockpit for around 2 seconds. So without any corrective measure from the aircrew, the aircraft is stalled 4 seconds later. After it reached a maximum altitude of 1,730 feet. The aircraft is diving towards the ground with both the stall warning and GPWS Mode 2 siren along in the cockpit. So the GPWS Mode 2 is actually the terrain. The aircraft is out of control and smashed to the landing zone close to the E1 taxiway at around 11:15. So here's the picture showing the search and rescue action by the Japanese authorities after the aircraft crash. So to conclude this, the fatalities of the accident actually is 264 died and only 7 survivors out of this accident. This accident is categorized as major accident, and it is still the second deadliest accident that ever happened in Japan. With a total 271 on board, only 7 managed to survive from this. The 7 survivors also suffer from serious injury. And definitely, the aircraft is totally damaged due to the explosion occur, and the aircraft is caught on fire after crashing to the taxiway. So here is the summary of the aircrew for this accident. The left side is the captain named Wang Leqi. Yeah, he is a experienced pilot with a total flight time of 8,340 hours, and the total hours on A300-600R is 1,350 hours. As for the right side here is the first officer, and he is the pilot in charge for most of the flight time. His name is called Zhuang Mengrong. He has a total flight time of 1,624 hours, and his total hours on A300-600R is 1,033 hours. Both of the pilots have sufficient rest before they pilot this scheduled flight. At what phase of the flight that the accident actually happened? Here's some explanation about it. This accident happened during the landing phase of the flight. The aircraft is actually preparing to land at Nagoya Airport after acquired the clearance permission from the tower. The aircraft is performing the ILS approach, but since the go-around mode is eventually triggered by the first officer, the aircraft missed approach and did not complete the landing. The aircraft that triggered the go-around mode, and after a series of inappropriate control action by both of the pilots, this finally led to a crash of the aircraft. and the accident just happened like this. Next is the several main cause of the accident. So the accident is actually due to human error and inappropriate machine designation. The explanation is as follows. First, the first officer inevitably triggered the go-around button when the aircraft is actually performing the ILS approach. This results in the conflicting control between the pilot and the computer of the aircraft. So when the aircraft is in a go-around mode, the first officer continues to push the control column forward despite the great resistive force by the autopilot system. This mistake this has caused that the pressure against the control wheel when the autopilot engaged in the go-around mode. Next, both the captain and the first officer did not understand that the aircraft is actually getting worse when they decide to perform a manual go-around. The aircraft is already having a high angle of attack when the computer get the horizontal stabilizer to a go-around configuration. When they start when they decide to perform a manual go around, this actually caused the aircraft to climb more steeper. The judgment and the action that taken by the captain and the first officer actually is not appropriate, as this finally led the aircraft to stall and dive. Besides, the crew coordination between the captain and the first officer is also inadequate. The first officer having difficulties in controlling the aircraft, but actually no help is given by the captain at the first. The captain just instructs the first officer to disengage the go-around mode by pushing the control column forward. This is because the captain get his training in an A330 that installed the update which can automatically disengage the go-around mode when the aircrew push the control column with a force that greater than 33 pounds. Unfortunately, China Airline did not install this update as it is not mandatory by Airbus, and the captain only realized this when he started to take control of the flight. The captain also seems to be puzzled why the aircraft pitch angle still increasing, despite his control is contrary to this. Both the captain and the first officer are not aware and sensitive enough towards the flight condition, and their recovery action to prevent the aircraft from stall is actually inadequate. So another human error from here is that the airline they did not update the go around mode disengaging method, and the captain is sent to have his training at a Thai Airways A330 which have this update installed. The modification is actually a service bulletin and it's only an optional modification stated by Airbus. This is the main cause of the confusion for the captain of why he is unable to disengage the go-around mode by pushing the control column forward. As for the inappropriate machine designation, the position of the go-around button actually have a high possibility to inevitably trigger it during the normal operation of the thrust lever. This is because the go-around button is actually located below the thrust level. When the pilot hold on the warning and recognition function to alert the crew directly and actively of the onset of abnormal outtrip function. Just before the aircraft crashed, the alpha floor function was activated automatically by the autopilot system. This somehow is inappropriate when the aircraft is actually outtrimmed. This is because alpha floor protection will generate a large pitch up movement for the aircraft, and this actually narrow the range of selection for recovery operation and reduce the responding time for the pilots. So for the cost is actually just few costs for this accident is quite simple. The main cause of this tragedy is actually human error and the inappropriate machine designation, and only some additional factors. Next, I will continue with the investigators for the accident. Neither NTSB nor FAA agents are involved in the accident investigation. The NTSB only sent out a notice for the investigator team. However, they are accredited representatives from the state on behalf of the engine manufacturer. The local investigator team for this accident is the Japan Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission. The AAIC assigned one investigator in charge and 9 other investigators to investigate in this accident. The IIC assigned in this investigation is Mr. Kazuyuki Takeuchi. They are also accredited representatives from France and Taiwan, which is the aircraft manufacturer and the airline operator respectively. The investigation activities start from the date of April 26, 1994. So next, let's enter the analysis of the accident from the perspective of the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. So after analysis is being complete on the data in the FDR and CVR, it is estimated that the crash time of the aircraft is 11:15:45, the UTC time. The investigations and analysis on the different parts of the aircraft brings out the truth of the whole accident. So the flight track of the aircraft before its crash is shown at the right side of the diagram here. From the flight data records, the aircraft is aerodynamically stalled and descend drastically, accompanied with a serious rolling motion before it finally crashed to the taxiway. The investigation on the landing gears also show that the aircraft impact on the ground with its left landing gear extend, and the initial impact point of the aircraft is actually the left side landing gear, followed by the left wing. This great impact force then spread and torn the aircraft apart and caused an explosion that catch the aircraft in flame. The investigation on the engine also showed that the engines are running at high capacity before the aircraft hit the ground. It is estimated that there is a surge in the engine due to the abnormal angle of attack that far exceed the normal range. Both the CVR and the FTR are the critical components that help the investigator to get near to the truth of the accident. These two components in this accident suffer from some damage due to the impact force, but the information beneath it still can be extracted by the investigator to conclude out the main cause of the accident. So from the CVR here, the right side here is showing the conversation between the captain and the first officer. So first, from the cockpit voice recorder, it is clearly shown that the first officer, Zhuang Menrong, is the pilot that controlled the aircraft for most of the flight time. When the aircraft granted permission for landing, the first officer inadvertently triggered the go-around mode, and the aircraft entered the go-around mode. The CVR then record that the captain remind the first officer to cancel out this go-around mode, and during this time, the aircraft feel its ILS approach. The CVR also record that the first officer cannot cancel the go-around mode and asking help from the pilot in charge. The PIC then take over the aircraft control and try to push the control column forward. So before the captain take over, the alpha floor protection has been activated, and the captain judged that the landing is difficult and call for a manual go around. At that time, the CVR record some conversation from the captain saying, "What wrong with this?" It seems like the captain also frustrated because the control column could not cancel the go around mode when he tried to push the control column forward. When the captain goes for a manual go around, the aircraft began to climb steeply and reach a maximum height altitude of 1,750 feet. With this abnormal climbing, the aircraft is in a very dangerous angle of attack, but the aircrew are still not able to correct this situation. Finally, the aircraft went out of control, and the FDR record that the final second where the aircraft losing its airspeed, thrust, and altitude drastically. The CVR also record that the cockpit are losing control and they are unable to solve this crisis. So, after the accident, both the body of the captain and the first officer undergo autopsy at different colleges for ethanol detection, and the results are as follows. The captain and the first officer have an ethanol concentration of 13 mg per 100 mole and 55 mg per 100 mole respectively. This result may probably be due to the post-mortem ethanol production and the mixture with the alcoholic drinks on board. Post-mortem ethanol production is the progress of decomposition towards the body after death through microbial fermentation, which will certainly produce ethanol. The mixture with alcoholic drinks on board is because adjacent to the cockpit and behind the first officer's seat, there's a galley that stores around 40 bottles of whiskey and other liquors for passenger service. The possibilities of ingesting alcohol for both pilots are almost eliminated, as they didn't behave like they are drunk according to the CVR. Above are the several finding conclusions from the investigators. So after investigating the accident, several safety recommendations also been issued to prevent similar accidents in the future. The safety recommendations are advised to different parties. For Taiwan Civil Aeronautics Administration, they should require China Airline to reinforce the education and training program for flight crews, especially on the AFS. So next, China Airlines should also improve their crew coordination. China Airlines also should establish appropriate task sharing between the aircrew and a standard operation procedure to ensure that the crew have adequate situational awareness. As for French Civil Aviation Authority, they should require Airbus to improve the AFS function for the A300-600R aircraft. Next, Airbus is required to improve the description in the flight computer regarding the disengagement of go-around mode and the recovery procedure when aircraft is out of trim. So what I have learned from this air accident is human error is always the main cause of many aircraft accidents, and effective measures should be implemented to reduce human error in aircraft piloting. This can greatly reduce the chance of an accident happen. In conclusion, Flight 140 is an accident that should not be forget as history event, but need to conclude out the cause and take preventive measures to avoid such accident in the future. Error from flight crew need to be minimized as much as possible, as they are indeed professionally trained personnel. With enhancing more complete safety and security measures in hope that there will be no more such accidents in the future. Thank you. So that's all from me today. Thanks for the great attention. Thank you.